Welcome back to the Empire Builders podcast. Dave Young here, alongside Stephen Semple, discussing empires, entrepreneurial empires that started from just somebody's crazy idea and became something huge. And today, jacuzzi. So
Jacuzzi.
we're not
Yes,
talking about a hot tub; we're talking about a jacuzzi,
correct.
which sort of became the generic name for hot tubs. But I'm fascinated to hear the story. I'm guessing we're headed to the 70s, baby. Is that ring true or no?
The business was founded in 1915.
All right, so we're not headed to the 70s, but we'll still be around. Was it founded as Jacuzzi?
Well, here's the interesting thing. Here's the really fun part.
Oh, wait.
Guess what their first business was?
Wait. I'm thinking these might be like therapeutic whirlpool things too, no? I don't. I'm getting ahead. I don't know what
Well,
their first business was.
their first business was in the airplane business.
Okay. The 1915
Yeah.
three-engine jacuzzi. No, I don't
They
know.
start no, they started by making props for airplanes. That was their first
Really?
business. Yes. How crazy is that?
That's nuts.
Isn't
Okay.
that nuts? Yeah. So they were founded in 1915 in Berkeley, California by 7 siblings. There were 7 kids in the Jacuzzi family.
Holy. Is
And they were immig
jacuzzi their name?
well, actually it was Ayakuzi, and when they immigrated, the classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, the classic mistake of, being written down wrong, and that's the new spelling is what stuck. They were immigrants from Casassara della Delizzi, Italy, and I'm sure I'm completely
Yeah. Just
butchering
just
that.
just say Italy.
Just
Well,
Italy. Yeah. And I said, the original family name was Ayakuzi,
okay.
and it became Jacuzzi, and of course, it defined the hot tub business, which today is like a $6 billion global market.
But airplane propellers.
Airplane propellers.
7 siblings had the bright idea of making airplane propellers.
Yeah.
But this is shortly after Orville and Wilbur
Oh, yeah. Like,
kind of
this is the
invented
day of
airplane propellers.
well, this is the day of biplanes,
Yeah.
right? So it's 1915, and Raquel Jacuzzi, who's the youngest of the 7, is visiting the San Francisco Fair, and he sees biplanes. And one of the sons is working as an engineer for the founder of McDonnell Douglas, and they're obsessed with flight, and they see these stunt plane props, and they look at them and go, "These are really inefficient." So they invent a propeller that is curved and smaller and more efficient, and it's called the toothpick propeller. It's got these little tiny blades, and they open up a machine shop to start making these propellers. And the first business is called Jacuzzi Brothers Inc. in Berkeley, and they start making these things. And when the U.S. enters World War One, guess what? These propellers really helped the early Air Force.
Sure.
Now, at the end of World War One, they need a new business. And they decided to lean heavily into the aircraft space, and they build and design the first monoplane with a fully enclosed cockpit called the Jacuzzi J7.
Really?
Really?
How did I not know that?
Isn't that
Okay.
crazy?
That is.
Now it's the first fully enclosed monoplane to be flown in the US, and they get a contract to carry mail for the US postal system. Now, on its maiden flight, it crashes and kills one of the brothers. And the parents basically say, "No more airplane business."
Mm,
So they're out of the airplane business.
okay.
They're done. So they need a new business. And at this point, you would say, enter the hot tub business, right? Nope, not yet.
No, not yet.
So Raquel is staring out at the orchard in the valleys of California, and he's seeing irrigation starting, but it's very inefficient. And he thinks of an idea to get groundwater out more efficiently for irrigation, and he creates a new technology. Because think about it, he actually has expertise in fluid
Well,
dynamics.
yeah, a propeller is an impeller as well. So an
Correct.
impeller is something that moves water.
Correct. So he creates a new pump that's widely effective, and this pump drives air into the ground. So as driving air into the ground makes the pumps more efficient,
Okay. All right.
right? So one of the brothers, Candido, is basically the great salesperson, and he goes out selling this pump door to door, day to day, and soon they've got this great business doing irrigation pumps. And soon they're doing deep well injector pumps. And they start really leaning into the whole agriculture. They got crop defrosters and solar power generators and all of this stuff that they're making for the agricultural business. And
Wow.
Raquel, who's the engineer of the family, dies of a heart attack. So who's now going to lead the company? And the family decides Candido, who's the salesperson, is going to lead the company. Candido's married with 4 kids. And he gets some really disturbing news about his youngest son, Kenneth. They find out the youngest son, Kenneth, has rheumatoid arthritis.
Mm.
And at the time, when you had something like that, the expectation was he wouldn't live beyond 4.
Okay.
And he's getting all these injections with salts and things along this line and is in constant pain. Now, they had a doctor who tries a new therapy, hydrotherapy. And it's the only thing that works for Kenneth. But the problem is he gets this hydrotherapy twice a week, and there's this long drive down crappy roads, and it's super painful. So the wife looks at Candido and asks, "You build something?"
Sure.
Now you think about it, the family business is pumps.
Yeah.
But Candido is a salesperson, not an engineer, but he comes up with something. He takes a sump pump and he adapts it to a bathtub, and it works. Now Kenneth can have hydrotherapy every day at home. When they show it to the doctor says, "Man, you got to make more of these." So Candido now wants to enter the hydrotherapy business.
Yeah.
But the family's not really thrilled because this is kind of a move to business to consumer from business to business. This is quite a change.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, there's big players in the appliance market, companies like GE, and if they enter the business, boy, this could be tough. And the pump and irrigation business is doing great. They just built a big factory to build this stuff. They're doing about $35 million a year in that business. But Candido's the salesman. He wears them down, and they create a new division.
Good for him. All right.
They spend 5 years developing the product, and by December 16th, 1952, they launch a hydrotherapy pump for your tub, the J300. And it's kind of this thing that you attach. It looks like, it's really weird. It looks like basically a motor that you attach to an existing bathtub. But you know what? It's post-World War II America, which is really the marketer's dream because people want new products like the J300.
Electrical appliances that we can put in the tub with us.
That's and you know, the crazy thing is, if you look at the old pictures of it, like you literally plug it into a wall outlet. Like, it's freaking nuts. And this is also back in the day where the electrical outlets and bathrooms are not like they are today, where they've got built-in little.
There's no grounding systems and
no,
ground fault interrupt. No,
none of that. So 1953, they launched the product, and the first orders really are coming from pain sufferers. By 1955, they start having salespeople go to drugstores and bath shops and door to door and things along that lines. Because what started as medical, they started to pivot it more to relaxation. Because it's a way bigger market. But what they know is if it's successful, they worry GE is going to enter and overwhelm them. And they need to really make sure they get out there first. So they hire Ray Schwartz for the business. And Ray Schwartz works for them for the head of publicity. And he's an ex-sports reporter. He decides, you know what? I think product placement would be a great thing to do. So it's 1956, and there's a new game show coming out. And
stay tuned. We're going to wrap up this story and tell you how to apply this lesson to your business right after this.
What? Message. What? No. What is the message?
How?
Media.
What?
Not what, but how. How is media?
Which is first?
Message. What you have to say is first.
But I thought how was first.
No, media is second. How the message is delivered is less important than what you have to say. Your message.
So the message is key?
Yes. Oh, and you can book your free starter session on this podcast website.
Back to you, Dave. Dave.
Let's pick up our story where we left off, and trust me, you haven't missed a thing.
So it's 1956, and there's a new game show coming out, and it's called Queen for a Day. I'd never heard of this game show, but it's basically the woman with the saddest story wins. So these
gosh.
This show gets 20 million viewers per episode. It's a daily show, and basically they'll win this prize. And one of the things that Ray negotiates is the jacuzzi tub being one of the prizes.
Okay.
After the first appearance, sales spike. He then persuades actresses to use the product and promote it. And it's really one of the first influencer campaigns out there. Like, this is really a new idea. And a few years later, they do a product placement in a movie called Fortune Cookie. And it's actually a pretty terrible placement, but it gets the product out there. But the design does have one flaw. You got to kind of attach it to your plug and plug it in. And at this point, people are starting to figure out this electric wire in a bathtub is not the best idea.
Yeah.
Ray Schwartz wants to do something better, and he envisions a deep tub, hidden wiring, jets, more of a self-contained model. So in 1968, the Roman comes out, which is really, when you look at pictures of the Roman, kind of the jacuzzi tub that we envision today.
Okay.
And it's $800, which is about $7,000 in today's money. And what he decides to do, because it's this built-in unit, he decides to go to home builders at trade shows, and he offers them a commission. He says, basically, we'll give you a commission if you sell these at the time that you're building a home.
Okay.
And the first trade show he goes, he gets 50 orders. And as we get into the 1970s and fiberglass technology really starts to get perfected, that's when the jacuzzi tub really starts to take shape. You start seeing the shaped seats and all of this other stuff going on. And they up the product placements, they get it into movies, and it's still a family business. By 1974, they're doing 67 million in sales. By 1999, they've done a 10 times growth. They're doing 650 million in sales by 1999. Man. Yeah, but there's some problems. The family's fractured. Candido gets nailed for tax evasion. He resigns, moves abroad to avoid the U.S. government. There's 100 family members working for the company. There's 250 different stakeholders.
Wow.
Right? Like, I mean, shareholder meetings are a mess. The family suing each other over business decisions. It's like, it's nuts. And they decide, you know what? It's time to take the company public. And we've talked about this before. Like, there was a podcast back a little while ago where we were talking about these family businesses going public. And I made the comment, sometimes it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah. I'm guessing this is one of those cases.
This is one of those cases where it's like, because you think about it, if you're a minor shareholder and there's all this money tied up in the business and you kind of want to buy a new house, you want cash, not these shares that you can't do anything with.
Yeah, you'd kind of rather just have money than a piece of the company.
Yeah. But guess what? The market goes soft right around the time that they're planning on going public. So they pull that, but they get an offer for $73 million for the business from Walter Kidd and Company. And they figure, you know what? It's time to sell.
Okay.
They sell. The company changes hands a few times. Like, it's one of those ones that's gone from this business to this business because, the whole way that private equity and all that other stuff works. And in 2024, they were doing $873 million in revenues.
That's a chunk of change.
That's a chunk of change.
By anybody's, yeah.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is, under the family, it went from 74 to 99. It went from 67 million to 650 million. From 1999 to 2024, they went from 650 million to 873 million. Not really any growth there.
Yeah.
If in fact, one could argue, just for inflation, probably a bit of a decline. But you know what I found that was fun about this? When I first started looking at it and I was like, their first business was aviation. I was like, how do you go from aviation to jacuzzi pumps? But when you go aviation to irrigation, that made sense. Irrigation to the jacuzzi, because again, of the challenge with the sun with Kenneth, okay, that made sense.
Yeah.
But boy, at first it was like, it hurt my head when I was like, your first business was aircraft propeller? Like, what?
It makes sense. We know how to attach motors to things and spin them and move air and water.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of it, right?
So the whole inspiration was solving of a problem that existed. And it's this whole idea, I solve this problem, other people have this problem. But then what I thought was really interesting is launching a brand new product into a niche is really a powerful way to go, because you're now in the medical community. Like, it's easier to kind of spread that idea inside that niche. But what I thought was also very brilliant was once they got into that niche, what they recognized is that niche was small. So then they pivoted it from medical to relaxation. And all of
Yeah.
a sudden now you're dealing with a much larger market. I don't know if they would have had the same success even starting with the consumer product first. Just because, again, it's almost too big a market to start with.
It's really like it was such, nobody knows they need this or want this,
Correct.
right? There wasn't anything to compare it with.
Yes.
So other than saying, well, this really feels good for people that have rheumatoid arthritis,
Yes.
it feels good even if you don't.
But the way they started allowed them to attack a problem.
Yeah. And honestly, we come back to this. We talked about it with the Polaroid story. It's a man solving a problem for his child.
Yes. Amazing, right?
Yeah. And so then you've got this drive to build it, and you've got a drive to help other kids, other people that suffer the same.
Yes. And again, it's amazing how the reoccurring theme that we're getting over and over and over again with these stories is how often these empires are built by people not from the industry who are just looking at something and going, this needs to be fixed. This barrier needs to be removed. This thing needs to be improved. And looking at it either as a consumer or just as, here's a problem I want to solve.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool story.
Especially when I heard they built a monoplane. Like, what?
The Flying Hot Tub Brothers.
Yeah, it wasn't a time machine hot tub. It was a flying hot tub.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for the jacuzzi story, Stephen.
All right.
The Jacuzzi. The Jacuzzi
story. All right. Thanks, David.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Please share us, subscribe on your favorite podcast app, and leave us a big, fat, juicy 5-star rating and review at Apple Podcasts. And if you'd like to schedule your own 90-minute empire building session, you can do it at empirebuildingprogram.com.